Hello, everyone, and welcome to our day before release comic preview video. I'm Jason,
I'm Andy.
and we're with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, where it is our great pleasure every Tuesday to gather up all the comics that are going to be releasing tomorrow, and we divide them up, we read them, and we present mini reviews to you, the viewer, trying to tell you what these comics are about that you're going to be seeing. They'll
What
be
are these
all
all
over
about?
They'll be all over your comic shop's walls, and you're going to have questions. Hopefully, we're going to answer some of those today.
Mm.
So, I know many of you are return viewers, so I sound like a broken record. We try to do this without too many spoilers. There's no way we can't have any at all, but we try to keep it to a minimum. We try to make it where it's still fun to read these. We will mention first appearances, anything that's super major, but really our main goal is to just tell you what the comic is about, to try to connect the right reader with the right comic. I think there's a reader for every comic.
Yeah, that's
Just
a big
like
part. Working in a comic book store is someone coming in and connecting people with, like, what do you like? And this is just a way we can do it.
that is our goal pretty
Yeah.
much every single
Mhm.
week. So, okay, so let's begin. Andy, would you like to go first?
Yeah, my first one is a really exciting one for all of the Aquaman and Aquaman family fans out there. I was so excited about this. I love Aquaman, and we have never got a mini series about his number one villain, Black Manta. We've gotten some one shots
I was
before.
going to ask you that. I wasn't aware if Black Man ever have a
He's never
series.
had something that's like ongoing or a mini. It's always been either a one shot or a special or something like
Right.
that. I believe he had a when they were doing like the Year of the Villains.
Mm-hmm.
He took over Aquaman's issue for one issue, but nothing substantial.
Dastardly.
I know. How dare you take over someone's comic? Until this one. So this is really cool. This story actually started in last week's Aquaman 80th anniversary issue with the same creative team that's on this, which is Chuck Brown, and art is by Delandro. And in this, Black Manta is, if you don't know, he's kind of a pirate. He's to him, like most villains, he's probably not that bad of a guy,
Right.
but he's out to just survive and make it for himself. And he is in the beginning of this going to pirate a pirate ship, which is really funny. So there is actually a old timey pirate ship that is pirating another, like a cruise liner, and he's gonna now come in there and take them on. So you see him have a lot of fun with like busting up these very like traditional style pirates. But his big thing is there is a stone, a very odd looking stone that has been stolen from him, and I needed to go back and check in the 80th anniversary, but I believe it happened in there that the stone got stolen from his new partner, Gallius the Goat.
Hmm.
And she was supposed to hang on to it. She lost it. It was taken by these pirates, and now he's going to get it back. Now, why he wants a stone, where it's from, any of that, we're not quite sure of. This is just the first issue.
Okay.
This is a lot of setup, a lot of really good action, a lot of good introduction to Black Manta's character and kind of his mindset. Aquaman is not in this at all. I will tell you that, which I kind of think is good.
Yeah, that is good. Let
Yeah,
the guy shine on his own.
right. I don't even know if Aquaman is mentioned in it. So you'll have to read it to get the whole story about what is the stone, what is it doing to Black Manta, and some other seemingly random people across the world. There's a moment where you see how it's affecting a certain number of people, and it's very interesting to think maybe there's something more to Black Manta than we even know. There is also I'm guessing they're setting him up like a villain, but there's a new villain who is not magic, but has figured out how to work magic, has figured out the essence of magic.
Hmm.
And seems like inevitably he's going to run into Black Manta, but he also has something that he wants with this stone. So this is a definitely a setup issue, an issue one. Not a whole lot of like in-depth story and all that, but a great introduction for someone who's never read Black Manta. The art is awesome. There's some just such cool scenes of him bursting out of the water, and it's great visuals. Actually, pretty funny. He's got some witty banter with Gallius, his kind of first mate. So I really recommend this one. I think Black Manta is a very strong character. I think he stands up there with, you know, any of the other rogues of any of the other Justice League.
Well, now he's getting his shot. So how many issues is this miniseries?
I believe it is 4.
4 issues.
6. It is 6
okay,
issues.
good.
Yeah, another one today is 4. 6 issues, and I have a feeling they're building up to something, because we do know we have this Black Manta series, and we have the Aquaman The Becoming coming up. That I think they're leading to a new Aquaman series, but why we're getting these and what that form is going to take will be very interesting.
And Black
to see.
Manta's son, Jackson
Hyde
is getting his own miniseries too.
Yeah, he's the new Aqualad, soon to become Aquaman, and I don't know. It seems like they're really building up these characters now. And, you know, we're getting more hints about the new Aquaman movie coming out. They dropped some more images of his new costumes, and I think we're pretty positive that Black Manta is going to be in that. So I love that DC's all behind Aquaman right now. So really, really good start to a mini series. We also have this awesome Sanford Green variant that we are actually sold out of. This is my copy that I pulled out of my own box just to show it off because it's so cool. But definitely give Black Manta a chance. I think people will really dig this one. The tone of it's really, really cool.
Okay, so I have a lot of number ones to talk about today, but I'm going to start out with a number 4. It is Shang-Chi number 4. There's a few reasons I want to talk about this. First and foremost, I saw the movie this weekend, and I really liked it. Of course, I am known to be a huge Kung Fu movie fan, and so, you know, the fact that I love comics, I like superhero stuff, and I love Kung Fu, yeah, that was one of my favorite Marvel movies to date. But I find this to be maybe my last chance to get people on board with this comic. I've really enjoyed this one.
Mm-hmm.
So we're on the 4th issue. I'm going to do a little catch up real quick. It is the arc is called Shang-Chi versus the Marvel Universe. Why? He is the head of the criminal organization, the Five Daggers. That's his family's organization. His father died, and he took over. Now, I know that if you've seen the movie, haven't been reading the comic, that sounds similar, except you saw something different happen in the movie. In this, he took over the organization because he's trying to undo all the evil they've done. They've spread so far that he can't just turn it off. He has to travel around and try to undo evil. Well, this has subsequently put him up against a lot of different Marvel heroes who now think he's a villain because he's so connected with his evil organization. He went up against Spider-Man. He went up against Captain America. He went up last issue against Wolverine. These aren't fights to the death. You know, we know that it's a lot of miscommunication, but it is building. It really is. So in this issue, he needs a favor from Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four. He has a dream that his sister is in the negative verse, and he needs Reed's technology to go there. All right? Another thing I should say is Shang-Chi has multiple siblings he's discovered throughout. It was right before this series, but that has led into this series. They're all really cool characters. So he needs to go to the negative zone to find his other sibling. The Fantastic Four tell him no. Well, this is the first time I have to say in the series that Shang-Chi kind of does something that could be seen as villainous. He can't take no for an answer. Reed Richards doesn't have a good reason for him to say no other than, I've heard you're part of this evil organization. He won't really hear him out. You'll have to read why. Reed has some reasons as well. He's a little busy. Well, Shang-Chi and his siblings in this, they basically bust up in the Fantastic Four's building to get to the negative zone. You'll have to see how they do that, how that all works out. But I do have to say, when they get to the negative zone, there is the first appearance of a pretty major character, and this character bridges the movie and the comic.
Ooh.
It retcons an older major Shang-Chi character to become more like the movie version, which I think ultimately makes more sense. And I wish I could say more, but I think it would hurt the read. So, major first appearance, sort of retconned first appearance. Is a character that's been in the comic, but they have changed this character to make more of a sense with the movie, and also just sort of probably how Shang-Chi should have been written to begin with.
Yeah, kind of
We
modern,
weren't as
modernized.
international back then.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my my quick and dirty review of Shang-Chi #4. It's been a really good read. If you enjoyed the movie, I highly suggest look for the back issues. This has been really, really cool. And you could tell that there is a lot of talk amongst the people doing the film and the MCU and the people doing the comics. So we've got this one variant by Taryn Clark. You know, in the last issue, Shang-Chi discovered he had one other sister who was a mutant, who her first appearance is last issue. I said it was a pretty big deal. And you know what? She's still in the book. She's a character now.
Yeah. So. The good thing about, you know, we saw it with Iron Man, with quite a few of the characters, the kind of the merging of the movie version and the comic version. And in most cases, that's really helped them because it, you know, it streamlines them and makes them a little. It cleans it up. Which, I mean, if you go back and read Shang-Chi's the first few volumes and stuff, you're like, this is completely like.
You got a lot of different writers.
You got a lot of writers and everything, and I think it's good when we kind of get a definitive version. Here's, you know, the definitive version of their cast of characters. And I think they're doing that right now with these miniseries they've been doing. And then I say we're probably going to see a lot more of him in the future.
I think so.
Yeah. In probably some pretty major
and
roles.
His family's criminal organization, I have a feeling we're going to see more of too.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So my next one is War of the Bounty Hunters #4. So we only have one issue left of Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters. And it has been a very interesting trip. I thought it was going to be one thing. Not that it's necessarily not about the hunt for Han Solo.
Right.
But there's been so many more elements thrown into the mix. And this one keeps adding to it. The big, I think, kind of hidden secret of this series was when Kira was revealed to be behind Crimson Dawn in the end of the first issue. So, of course, she's the character from Solo, A Star Wars Story, and Emilia Clarke's character. And in this issue, we see quite a bit more of her, and just the way she calmly runs this criminal organization is very interesting. So, where we left off with the last one, Vader basically bursts in and says, you know, I'm shutting this party down. Y'all are doing this auction for Han. I actually am going to take him, and y'all can't do anything to stop me. So, of course, that leaves the Hutts, who actually won based on like the auction. They're now really upset, and they're saying, you know, this looks bad on us. That you know, we bought him fair and square, and now Vader comes in and takes him. Right. That brings shame to our species and everything. So they're upset. We have in the last issue, we have Luke, who was coming to the rescue. When he got close, he said, I can tell Vader's there. I'm not ready for this. He flies off. Now Vader's hunting after him. I mean, this whole place is in a mess now. And we have Boba Fett, who is still trying to get Han back, and he's in the crosshairs now of Valance and Dengar. It's just craziness. You can tell, like, we are getting close to the end of this, where all the characters are, like, set up for some really big stuff to go down. But I will say, kind of my big takeaway in this is there's a final, or next to final scene, that something happens. I'll say it is with Kira, that is, if it is what it looks like, it is a huge deal, but it's played so, like, you know, not final page turn, big thing to happen, but something happens, and I was like, I had to flip back and be like, is that what I thought it was? I was waiting to get a couple more pages to see, like, oh, did they go back and address that scene? But no, but something happens that is, I mean, very big. You'll have to read it to find out. I love that they're building this character up to be a real threat. I really hope that she comes back into some live action form because I could see her coming back and being bigger than ever, being a big player in the Star Wars universe. But yeah, big things are revealed about her character in this and getting ready for the final issue. So, really cool. Um, we have of course, the variant, the blueprint variant with Boba Fett this time. Of course, you got to get that one in there.
Yep, him in his ship.
We have the action figure variant with IG-88. And then I wanted to mention also, let's see, Dr. Aphra also came out, number 14. This is still part of the War of the Bounty Hunters, but kind of like I said with the last issue, it's starting to go down its own path. It's still tangentially related to War of the Bounty Hunters, but Aphra and Santa are kind of doing their own thing now. They've kind of left the party, but still really good. We've got the variant for that with the 50th anniversary cover and the blueprint variant with Bosk and his ship, the Houndstooth. And finally, to wrap up my Star Wars coverage, we have Star Wars Adventures number 9. And I didn't really recognize this cover because I recognize the variant more I've seen show up. This awesome Boba Fett cover. And what is significant about this one is Boba Fett's first appearance in the Star Wars Adventures series.
That variant, he just looks larger than life.
Yeah, he's kind of doing that. Was it Grateful Dead, like Keep on Trucking with the giant foot? So really cool. And last Star Wars thing. Oh, we've got the 1 in 10 Francavilla variant. We're selling for $15. And then we do have some Star Wars reprints that are really cool. I've been waiting for this one. This is War of the Bounty Hunters Jabba the Hut number 1, second printing. This time with the concept art for our new character, Diva Lumpop.
I'm definitely grabbing some of those.
Yeah, so this was her first appearance in this issue, and now she gets the spotlight on this cover. Really cool. And Star Wars High Republic number 7, second print, which had appearance of a couple new characters in it. And very interesting, these characters in the background of this one, very mysterious things that we don't know a whole lot about, but making good enough to make it to the cover. So that is my big Star Wars update of the week.
All right, so I'm happy to say my pick of the week this week is one that surprised me. It is Deadbox number 1. So my pick of the week is based off of the comic that I just most enjoyed reading.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way I can put it, and I will tell you why I like this comic. So first I'm going to tell you what I went in expecting about it. So we talked about this on Comics from the Future, and we all were like, wow, Deadbox, that's such a no-brainer of a good comic concept. Like it's like a red box, but, you know, haunted or evil. My concept of this was going to be there'd be a red box, people would rent movies from it, and the movies would probably be horror, and either the person would get drawn in and die in the movie, or the movie would affect their life. I have to say that's not exactly what is going on in this. This is a bigger concept than what I had thought of. I thought it would be an anthology comic. It is not. This is an ongoing comic. It's not a one and done sort of Ice Cream Man.
See, I was thinking very Ice Cream Man when I heard the synopsis.
It is not, and I'm a big fan of Ice Cream Man. I'm a big fan of anthology, so I am definitely not saying it's better because it's not, or one is better than the other. It just, surprised my expectations. This is an ongoing story with a lot to say. This book has large thoughts and large themes going on throughout the narrative that are not from a simple horror comic. I mean, we have a character quoting Kierkegaard, the famous philosopher, in it. You know, not to say that that's what the whole thing is, but I mean, this writer is really trying to tell a big story, and I'll tell you other ways I know that. So let me start off by saying it begins with our main character. Her name is Penny. She works in her father's gas station. Now, Penny was supposed to go away to college, but because her father fell ill, she had to put him and his health before her going to college. So she's sort of stuck there, and this is a very small town. Um, so in this small town, in her convenience store, there is the Deadbox. I don't think that's what it's really called. I don't know if we get
I
to
don't think
see
you would rent something called a dead box.
what it's called, but it is basically a red box style machine. But everyone kind of jokes about it because it has movies no one has ever heard of. But it's such a small town. Like she says, they barely have any internet or anything, or cell phones barely work there. That they just figure these are knockoff movies.
Or
You know,
the
like,
ultimate hipster movie rental, like, you've never heard of any of these.
I remember back when the old Michael Bay Transformers were coming out. You'd go to the Blockbuster and there'd be Changeformers,
Or
but it would
Transmorphers.
be out. Yeah, or Transmorphers. They'd be out like weeks before. So maybe people think that's what it is. But it's such a small town. They have so little to do. People rent these movies. So on top of that, there's an interesting cast of characters that comes through the convenience store. You get to meet each of them with their own personalities. A lot happens in this issue. So what I was saying about sort of higher concept work is you do get to watch one of the movies with her. That's a part of it, and it is this sort of sad, lonely sci-fi tale. And the tale of the movie is good enough. It could have been a comic in its own.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you the whole thing because I think you'll really enjoy reading this movie that she watches. And as she watches it, you wonder, well, how does this relate to her and her life, or does it yet? It is not a one-to-one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's what I expected, was a very clear one-to-one. They watch this, well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
It seems to be on a more deep, insidious level. And in the end, I do see some evidence. It's not necessarily with what she watches, but with something somebody else has watched, that these movies are affecting them in some way. But I promise when you read it, if anyone picks this up, it isn't just sort of a schlocky horror slasher thing,
Mm-hmm.
which I like those too. You know, if that's
Yeah.
what I'm built. This is a bigger thing. This is, you know, when you hear of a work within a work and it's done well, that's what this did. And I expect more from that in the future ones. They even have the box cover art. It looks like little movie posters.
That's cool.
That have like the feeling of the movie. I was just taken by surprise with what care was put into this, and I'm really excited to read the second issue. So that is why that is my pick of the week for just the comic I overall enjoyed the most, even though there are a lot of good comics I'm going to talk about this week. So we have this variant by Howell. We have our protagonist Penny there on the cover. Hopefully she's going to last, because I don't know what to expect from this. I'm not sure if characters are going to die, you know, in 2 or 3 issues, or if they're building a cast. I don't know what to
It's
say.
interesting, too, that you're saying, like, oh, the first movie they watch is, like, a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
And this is a horror comic, and it's hard to figure out, well, where's the horror
So what
come
I will
in?
say is, it is sci-fi, but there is sort of an existential dread to it. That is what's there. You know, and for those of you who don't throw around terms like existential dread, what I mean is, you know, looking at life either through a microscope or through a large enough lens that it can be scary, that you can see like greater patterns to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the sci-fi movie tells. So check it out. Check out the first issue.
That's really cool. So another one, talking about horror, is The Last Book You'll Ever Read, #2. So, #1, we found our kind of our main character, our kind of nucleus of what this is all about. Is her name's Olivia, and she is an author. She has written this book called The Satyr, and when people read it, it basically drives them to their most, not animalistic, but just the most raw, unfiltered versions of themselves. And this book has been making, I mean, of course, something like that is going to be a #1 bestseller. And in this world, like, she is now kind of celebrity #1. There's people who love her, there's people who hate her, and they pick at all the stuff she does. When the first one, she has hired a bodyguard named Connor because she's about to go on a book tour. And he strongly advises against going on a book tour. For her life is in danger. You know, people are so upset with kind of what she's causing people to do that, I mean, people want to shut her down however they can. So she's going from bookstore to bookstore, I guess doing a signing and reading excerpts from her book. And this one picks up in the first kind of local bookstore. You see her arrive. There's people who have signs everywhere saying, like, we don't want you here, all this stuff. And you get a glimpse as she reads kind of what the book sounds like, which is what Connor calls it, is kind of a like pseudo self-help book. And even a conversation that he has with someone else where they ask him, you don't actually like believe this stuff that this book is causing. It's like, no, I mean, it could be marketing, it could be whatever. But as it goes on, you can see maybe his opinion changes on that. So in it, he, of course, being the bodyguard for this writer, he gets to know her quite a bit better and can't quite figure her out. And what we see is maybe there's more to her, and maybe who is offended by her book more. You'll have to read it to see, but in some crowd scenes, you'll see some people either holding signs or yelling that look a little out of place. So I feel like the first one, we got a pretty, not simple setup, but we got kind of the lay of the land. This one, you're starting to see that maybe this goes a little bit deeper than just this horrifying book and what it says. So I really, really liked this issue. This is, of course, by Cullen Bunn.
Right.
And I think this is, I've read so much Cullen Bunn at this point. It's amazing what he can do from books like Six Gun, which I love, which has it's a kind of a horror western, but with kind of a sense of humor, to this, which is, like you said with your book, has this dread, this like heaviness to it that is very uncomfortable, but you really want to see where it goes. And I'm excited to see where the relationship with Connor and Olivia go, because hasn't read the book. That's kind of his job. Like, don't read the book because you're going to get affected too. Right. And he even mentions, like, well, the more I tour with her and see, the more I kind of want to read it to see, like, what's the big deal. But really cool. Great issue 2. Very easy to read. The dialogue is great. You can tell Cullen Bunn is such a veteran of comic writing that it just flows. It's easy to understand, even though there's some mystery to it. You're never confused by the dialogue or anything. So issue 2, great issue. We have the Hickman variant, and then I will not open them. And I don't even know why I grabbed 2 of these. They look the same. There are the black bagged versions. I've seen inside these. There's a reason why they're black bagged. But I wanted to note that it'll be hard to see, but I'll just show you this. It doesn't say on the front what the difference is. But if you want to get both covers, if you look at the barcode, one of them will say, like under the little barcode, 00241, and I believe the other one says 00231.
Right.
So that is your way, yes, 231. So look for the different barcodes if you want to get them all, because it's not very clear when you just look at them. And they are different covers. They're by different artists. So if you're trying to collect them all, just a hint, anytime there's like black bag things or whatever, the barcodes still have to be different. So you can always check there.
Yeah, the one that ends in 3-1, that's the third cover, first print.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ones that ends in 4-1 is the fourth cover, first print.
Yes. So keep that in mind when you're going to your store to look for them. The covers are great, but yeah, they are some spicy meatballs.
I don't know where that's going, but I have a feeling there's some occult in it. I just think
there
the
has
book
to be,
is affecting people.
If you see one of the variant covers, it feels very occulty.
Yeah, I have a feeling.
So,
and I'm sure Colin Bunn, he knows how to slow roll things to where at some point Connor is going to read that book.
Yeah, and do you think like he's got this out right now and Basilisk and like
so many other things.
The dude is just
a
machine.
He really is.
And quality.
Okay, so the next one that I read is Suicide Squad Get Joker #2. I really enjoyed the first issue, but I like a good building your team book. And the first issue was all about Amanda Waller putting the team together. I mean, she doesn't really ask, though. She just kind of tells people they're on the Suicide Squad, or she gives them the opportunity to not rot in jail forever by planting bombs inside of heads and sending them on missions. So I thought the team for this was really good. Now, issue #1, I have to talk about it to talk about this issue. So if you haven't read it, sorry, you're going to get some spoilers for issue 1. Issue 1 ended with quite the surprise as Joker surprises everybody and gets his hand on the detonator to everybody's bomb. So here this team is put together to get him, and right off the bat, he gets the detonator, kills one of them. So he's not playing. I mean, this is DC Black Label. He'll kill anybody they want to, because this story doesn't seem to be set within. It's definitely not set within the regular DC universe. They can do whatever they want, kill whoever they want. So Joker has a detonator, and in this one, the first half of it is pretty much the Suicide Squad waiting to hear from him. Because now he holds all the cards. What does he want from them? Well, the Joker, he, as Harley kind of tells them, he likes to let people stew. He will sit there. Know. Yeah, he will sit there just laughing, and if you ask what you're laughing at, he'll just say, "Wouldn't you want to know?"
Yeah,
that's the Joker there for you. So, but what it allows is it allows our characters to get to know each other better. Some of which get along, some of which don't like each other. There are characters, if you read the first one, you probably want to know about some of the new characters. Like there's the one character, Meow Meow, who has a very creepy power. We get to see more on her. So you get some build-up of them and build-up of the team. And I think that's important. If they're going to be out in action together, you got to get to know how their personalities match or conflict. At the same time, Red Hood knows what danger they're in, so he starts building a plan. You don't know what the plan is, but he's building it. Harley seems to be helping him with it. So, of course, eventually the Joker does contact them, and you will see what he has them do, where they go. I can't say more without ruining it, other than it doesn't seem like anyone's plans go off flawlessly by the end of this. Not everyone makes it out alive again, and that's why Suicide Squad makes a great Black Label book. Yep. You don't know who is going to survive, who's not going to survive. There are some surprises in this I could not guess, and next issue promises to introduce a lot more characters. I don't mean brand new first appearance characters, but characters we've not seen in this yet. Some pretty major ones too. So I was pretty shocked when I saw the ending. I'm like, oh man, and them and that and that. So pretty cool second issue. I still think the first issue was just sort of the really strong one, but the second one was quite good as well. Looking forward to the third. Here is the Fornes variant. I like that. It's sort of, I think we talked about comics in the future. It has like a James Bond feel to it.
Yeah.
With the silhouettes. So, and that's the one, that's it, just the one variant on that.
So, my next one is a really big one because it is the final issue of Infinite Frontier.
Yeah.
This 6-issue epic that kicked off with the 0 issue. So, I guess it's kind of 7 issues. You kind of need to read the 0 issue to see what's going on. But I will begin my review by saying, this, when you get to the end of it, you realize that this is part 1 of a much bigger story. And I think it's cool that I think Joshua Williamson is a great architect for this. Very much has the feel that Jeff Johns did when he was doing Blackest Night, and setting up the DC universe. You always have to have that like captain at the helm, designing what the future of the DC universe is going to be. And Joshua Williamson has done that here. So I can't say too much about this issue because, of course, it's the last issue. People would hate if I spoiled the last issue of a 6-part series. But what we know from the previous issue is, and we've known kind of all along, that Darkseid is behind a lot of this. But even up until the last one, we didn't quite know what his plans were. So he now has Roy Harper, who is his Omega Lantern, in his grasp. But we don't know, why does he need him? What is his overall plan? What does it have to do with the multiverse? You pretty much get the answers to everything that has been set up in this series. But there are brand new mysteries that are revealed in this, which makes it feel way more like the beginning of a bigger thing. So, let's see. We also had the story with Flash through this entire thing with Barry Allen, who his job was kind of to run around to the different worlds, check up on them and everything. And it's funny, Flash is a major character in this. I don't think he's interacted with a single character from this story, but he's been a very big part of it. And what the plan with Flash is also much bigger. So much so that kind of the last few pages of this issue are very Flash-centric, which, Flash is the starting point of like everything in the DC universe.
He's the catalyst. Yep.
But I will say, and I feel like every DC event kind of uses this as their selling point, but this really does involve the entire history of the DC universe, more so I think than ever, and it addresses it. You know, we had Rebirth and Flashpoint and all of that, where it liked to go to the next step and then in the event erase what happened before, and then when the next one starts, we're starting fresh.
A new 52.
Yeah. This one basically goes like, we're making this transition, but you can still see everything before, and how does that mess with things? And we're looking way into the past in this. So I think people will really like this. Hopefully they've stuck on board. I worried reading this series as it went along that I know I have a pretty deep knowledge of the DC universe. And for new readers, I'm wondering how that is for them, using some of these characters that are not even super familiar to me. I've only read them in a couple of things, and they've been very big parts in this. I'll be interested to see how people think of this when it ends, what their speculations are, because I would even say something changes so dramatically that the art style has to change too, to match it. So really great end of this, and I'm very excited to see the next thing. We already know what the next story is. It even tells you in this, like at the bottom in a caption, like to be continued here, coming in 2022. But yeah, final issue of Infinite Frontier. I really enjoyed it. I'm really excited to see what Joshua Williamson has for the DC Universe. I know this is supposed to span at least till the end of next year, if not further, in its overall grand plan.
Wow. And
it definitely feels like it has very big ramifications. Lastly, a character shows up that I will have to do some deep diving to see last time I saw them, because it's a long time ago. So keep that in mind. and give Infinite Frontier a chance. Even if you're not super familiar with the characters, by the time you get to the end, you'll know why they're all there and what they're for. And there is a variant for it, but we are currently out of it. I believe it's a Brian Hitch variant, kind of finishing up the connecting variants that we're doing for that.
All right, so next I'm going to go over Conan number 25. However, in legacy numbering, this is Conan number 300. So I think that just was a happy coincidence that they could have a big celebration on the 25th issue of his current Marvel series with the 300th issue overall of Conan being published at Marvel. So this is 4 different stories written by 4 different teams. So whether you've been reading Conan or not, this is a good one to just grab if you just want some good Conan stories. The first one, which is probably my favorite of the 4, was written by Jim Zub. And in it, Conan and Belit go up against 2 other Conans. One is like a younger Conan, like before he ever knew Belit, and the other is sort of an older King Conan. You know, he's still tough, he's not gray-haired yet, but he is king. So how that happens, you'll have to find out. These are severe fights. Like, these don't end with them all shaking hands at the end of it. I like sort of what's spoken between them. You know, take a character, show them themselves at different points, and you get to really dissect who's the more true version. So the second story is by Larry Hama, who he writes a story where pretty much these 3 guys go to fight Conan, and they decide that they want to do it one at a time for fair play's sake.
Everybody wants to be fair with Conan. They're like, oh, you can't take us all on.
This is sort of the point of Larry Hama's story, and you'll just have to see how it works out for them and what Conan has to say about fair play. The third story is by Dan Slott. This is a wordless story. It's just told in the art, and the reason is it's because it's one of those stories where it starts with Conan getting really drunk, and then you just get glimpses of what drunken adventure he goes on that night. And how even drunk, he's so effective. Like, he just wakes up moment to moment going, oh, this guy's about to kill me. I kill you. You know, oh, this is happening to me. Well, I'll grab that. It was very amusing. Even though there's no words, I might have spent more time just kind of looking at this story and wondering, how did it get from this to this? Because you miss so much between. Because, you know, he's really sloshed. This is just his consciousness coming up occasionally for breaths. And then the last story by James Owsley is a story of Conan, his later days as King Conan. And it asks the question, what does King Conan fear? You know, after all he's been through in his old age, what does he finally fear? So I thought it was really great. Once again, don't have to have been reading Conan to enjoy this. We've got several variants on it, some really good ones. This is the Garson variant that he has done before, where he does this sort of collage of all the different covers.
We had a Venom one that was like that, and really cool.
So that's the Garson variant. Here is the Panosian variant with Belit. And then we have Peach Momoko variant. Marvel just has her tied to an artist table where she has to do a variant for every comic, so this probably bought her a free meal or something over at Marvel. You won't eat tonight unless you do another variant for us, Momoko. Here's the blank variant. You know, Marvel was smart to have locked her contract down. She has put out some really cool stuff. And then we have this 1 in 10 Kevin Eastman variant that we are selling to our customers for $20. So if you ever wanted to know how Conan would look going up against the Ninja Turtles, there you have it.
A little bit like Casey Jones.
Yeah.
What I love about Conan is kind of what you talked about in the Larry Hama one is, you know Conan's not going to lose. You just want to see how bad he can, like, take on everybody else.
He's also not modest.
No.
You know, he's not like, oh, well, I don't know. You know, he's just like, throw everything at me. You're not throwing everything at me. You're a moron. And here's why.
Yeah, always Conan is such a palate cleanser. You're like, I just want to see somebody who I know is going to be fine in the end of this. He's going to have a good time doing it. It's always fun.
Yeah.
So next is maybe my pick of the week, but I feel like it's a cop out to say it because the series is so good, and we're already 4 issues in. But of course, Nice House on the Lake is so good. And the structure of this is been really interesting where each issue kind of focuses on one of the tenants, I guess, at this point of the Nice House on the Lake, one of the friends of Walter. This time is the comedian. No, not the one from Watchmen. That's
they got enough problems. They don't need him around.
Yeah. So this is another one. I got the hard job this week of talking about books that are past number 1. Number 1s you can just go, and then this happens, and this happens. I have to skate around deep in series. So this one though does add a new element to the situation they're in to the nice house, and it's something that was kind of hinted at earlier, where Walter kind of promised them like, I'll provide everything for you. You know, you'll be fine. In this one, they're about to run out of food. And it's very, at first they're like, well, he did say that, we'd be okay, but whatever. You find out how that problem is solved. But in addition to that, something else that they can do that if you had any doubt that Walter was just something else, some creature, alien, whatever, something is, he has an ability in this that is crazy. It's hard for me to explain. I actually wrote down some things that I was like, I'll just tease you with this. So in this issue, you see Action Comics number 1, Detective Comics number 27, and Wonder Woman number 1. Actual comics, a monkey in a spacesuit, and a very interesting shopping list. So that's my teaser for this issue. And when I say monkey in a spacesuit, there's a monkey in a spacesuit. So it is crazy, but it continues to be such top-notch storytelling that I was telling you, like, when I was reading it, it's like you get so immersed. You almost feel like you're watching a movie because it plays out so well in your head, and the dialogue and everything is so believable, and you can hear the voices. It's so well done, and you learn more about this comedian character, how he deals with the situation they're in, and there's more to him as well as there are all the other people stuck in this house. So, I mean, if you're not reading it, go back, get whatever printings you can to catch up to here, because it's really getting its stride. It started out strong, but this is like, we are in it, and the mysteries are getting deeper, but I don't know. It's great.
And we're only a third of the way in it.
Only a third. We do know that there is going to be a break, I believe, halfway through.
Oh, really? Okay.
I'm wondering, so each of these issues starts with kind of a narration by the character that's in it, and they're in a very odd situation. I mean, one of them, the guy's like out in the woods playing piano, and I think issue 1, the girl's like wearing armor and all this crazy stuff. I almost wonder if that's part 2. Because we see on this cover,
it's got to fit in somewhere, it seems.
Yes. This is the variant cover by Terrell, with the comedian on stage, and his audience looks like a bunch of crashed boats. So, still so much mystery to it, but still very rewarding.
I'm going to talk about another James Tynion comic, the one he's doing at DC that is not Nice House on the Lake. It is Batman number 112. So as has happened with Batman for the last ton of issues, a lot of things go down in this issue. So, last issue, Batman was infected by the fear toxin, but so was Peacekeeper 01. Scarecrow has turned on Simon Saint. Surprise, surprise.
What?
Yeah, so if any of you read Fear State Alpha #1, which came out the other week, you got to see Simon Saint go to Scarecrow, and they talked about, okay, we should team up. Here's what we're going to do. Here's our goals. Here's our aims. But if you've been keeping up with Batman, you know that Scarecrow has decided at last moment, after Simon Saint has helped his cause, to go, nope, I'm doing my own thing. I don't need you. And so this is the issue. We get to see some of that play out. It begins with Batman. You get to see how the fear toxin is affecting him, and it's not like the fear he's had in the past. This is more. This is greater. I don't think I've seen Batman so weakened very often. At the same time, it's told in an interspersed storytelling method where Simon Saint happens to be running these positive ads across Gotham for who he is and what he's going to do and how he believes in Gotham. So on the one hand, you got Batman, terrified, terrible things happening. On the other, positive Gotham messages, which I really appreciate storytelling when it's done that way. So even as the positive ad is playing, you get to see more on Scarecrow's plan to backstab Simon Saint and do his own thing. And you get to see Simon Saint's reaction to this, which is authentic. This is not something he's like, so many times when a villain is backstabbed, they're like, I planned, I knew you'd do that. He does not seem to have conceived Scarecrow could backstab him this hard, at least. Like maybe he thought there was a possibility, but not as bad as this. So at the same time, Anti-Oracle, the new Oracle character who is evil, who we don't know who it is at all. All we've seen is sort of the green computer face, has started spreading fear and misinformation amongst Gotham. Now, we still don't know who Anti-Oracle is working for. My guess would be Scarecrow. Seems like it goes along with it, but I have no evidence for that at all. This could be a whole different character who's just taking advantage of the situation at hand. But Anti-Oracle is preaching fear to Gotham, and if that's not enough, we get to follow Peacekeeper 01, who is infected with the fear toxin, who is losing his mind, and he has lots of guns and lots of ways to do all kinds of terrible things to people as he's having terrible demonic visions. Now, who is Simon Saint going to send after his best guy, who is about to look real bad? It's a PR nightmare that your Peacekeeper has been infected with this toxin. So we get the first appearance of a new character named Peacekeeper X. I'm not saying we know who Peacekeeper X is, but first appearance of a character named Peacekeeper X at the end of this one. This also has a backup story with Clown Hunter, so you get some Clown Hunter stuff. And we have the variant here, the Molina variant with the new Scarecrow design and his needle fingers. And then here is the 1 in 25 Prio variant that we are selling for $30. Andy and I were talking about this. I like this, but I don't know why they're doing this choice of variant. So this is supposed to look like an old school video game.
Like an old PC game.
Yeah. So we're not sure, what this is a reference to or why they decided to do these. I mean, they're cool, but just kind of came out of nowhere. So
that's interesting. It's weird because, the stuff you're talking about with, like, Peacekeeper 1 and all that, it's like, well, he wasn't like that in Future State. Now, I guess he could circumvent and come back to that version, but it's like, are we already seeing the split? Or...
So some people are saying, some theories I've read are saying something has happened to throw Future State off. I don't think so. I think this is all just clever storytelling that's eventually going to go into Future State.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion. We'll see.
Yeah, I'll say I read an interview with the writer of Suicide Squad that kind of addressed that as well. Them saying, like, how do you... has it helped having Future State there? And he said it's been fun figuring out how having kind of this goal point out there that maybe you're aiming for, but you're kind of playing against people's expectations along the way, where they think they know how they're going to get there, but they don't. I feel like all the books are kind of playing with that, which is, I think, the smart idea, rather than being like, oh, we know where this goes. It's like, throw some mystery in there along the way. So my next one is one that, talk about late in a series. This is Amazing Spider-Man 73. We have one issue left of Nick Spencer's Amazing Spider-Man run. And we just finished Sinister War. So I'll say Sinister War was good. I don't quite know how it really, really furthered this overall story, but it was fun to see all the villains fighting each other. But this kind of picks back up a little bit where we left Spider-Man and Kindred and all of those players before that event happened, where, I mean, we thought we knew who Kindred was, and we thought we knew kind of the trajectory of the rest of this run, and this one finally reveals kind of everything. So we had that classic moment in a previous issue where Kindred pulls the mask off. Mary Jane sees who it is, but we don't see who it is, and she's, all we see is her expression of, oh my gosh, you're... And now we see the other side of that, and Kindred's face is revealed. Pretty much. There's some confusing bits about it. But I will say, this issue made me do the most Googling and Wikipedia diving that I've had to do in a while. So this... and people may have seen the articles, like, there's been articles about this issue and kind of what it's revealing for, I won't say it's retconning 100%, but there is their way of twisting older stories and changing what you thought you knew about them. So I think, not that this one had an agenda to fix some things, but I think they definitely saw the opportunity to help some more problematic issues in older Spider-Man stories. You may also have to do some deep diving on some characters and some older stories if you're not super caught up with your Amazing Spider-Man history. But I am now really interested to see what happens in the next issue and where a lot of our characters that have been really central in this run of Amazing Spider-Man end up. Because it looks like there's going to be a big status quo change in 75. And still not super clear how we get there yet. And I think the next issue, it's going to be like a supersized issue. We'll find out what happens. But even here, right before the last issue, there's still a lot of plot threads that are dangling that I'm interested to see how it wraps up. We have this really nice, this is the Vincentini variant. For $25, it is a 1 in 25 with Kindred over Spider-Man. And man, I don't know in the beginning if anyone could have guessed the path of Kindred and who was under the mask, because it was all over the place.
Okay, so I read the new one by Jeff Lemire. It is called Mazebook. He's doing it for Dark Horse. And I have to say, this is Jeff Lemire doing exactly what he wants to do. That is the best way I can describe it without telling any story, but I will say some story. So Lemire's not just doing the story, he does the art to it as well. He does all the interior art. And this is a work of strong feelings and sadness and regret. Like, I hope Lemire is okay. He seems like he's got some sadness in his Canadian heart somewhere or something, because, I mean, it has a lot of feeling to it. This is the stuff you mainly only see in indie comics because it's just not for the masses, I mean, I like to read a good superhero story, and, I don't mind knowing some of my friends read those, and when it comes to, hey, here's some really sad, dark story, they're like, nah, pass. However, you get different kinds of tales in stories like these. So our main character, his name is Will. He is a 50-year-old man whose daughter died when she was 11. Since then, he's become obsessed with the unfairness of her passing, and it's just highlighted what he sees as his own fading life and personality as he's just absorbed into his job. So that's what a lot of this is. A lot of setup into who he is and what it's like to live sort of his sad life, where his thoughts are all about his deceased daughter. Yet to the world, he's just I'm this working guy. I just do my job. Um, so it sets up his character and what he feels like mainly through the art. I think you get more of his feelings in my opinion through the art than even in through what he's thinking, because Lemire's very frantic art style, a lot of feeling through his art style, and I'd almost say it's a cross between Lemire's typical frantic art style and imagery that reminded me more of parts of like Pink Floyd The Wall. A lot of people standing there and what's behind them, and of course this book's called Mazebook, so he'll have a dream where behind him it's like he's in a maze and things like that. A lot of isolation, a lot of confusion come from it. Of course, things are not as simple as this, because by the end of the issue, and this is in the solicitation, so I'm not really revealing anything, but by the end of the issue, he gets a call from somebody claiming to be his deceased daughter and saying that she's at the center of a maze. So we don't get a lot more than that in the first issue. It really is setting up the atmosphere, the feeling for this, who this guy is, what he goes through day after day. It's definitely a setup issue, but it looks like from here he's gonna have to go through his daughter's personal journals. He's gonna find things he didn't know about her and try to figure out where this maze is. Is it really happening? Is it all in his head? So if that sounds like it's a sort of story for you, I'm sure Lemire is going to do it well. But this is, I think, a good example while we do the show. You can't just go off of, oh, well, I watch Sweet Tooth.
Yeah.
So everything Lemire is for me. This is just right for the right kind of person. And it's my job to try to describe it that way. So.
Yeah, Jeff Lemire, my favorite things he's done are the ones that are like that. If anyone read Essex County or Underwater Welder, he has a way, like, those stories have a very sad feeling to them, but I don't know, he has such a way of bringing emotion into it, not only sadness, but just these characters, and you feel the weight of their life and everything. I think that's when he's at his best in those believable characters. Sweet Tooth has the most mainstream version of that, especially the comic that shows a little bit lighter in tone. But I recommend people. It's one of those, like, you don't know you like it until you read it. His stuff is like that because just flipping through it, you'd be like, this is too dark, this is too weird. But if you really read it, Jeff Lemire has some excellent stuff that is a little on the sad side. But it's almost like a sad song or something that you like listening to because it's done so well and tells such a good story.
Yeah, his style, it stands out, and you could just tell he's writing what he wants to write. I don't think he doesn't believe this is going to sell 25,000 copies.
Yeah.
It's just going to be the story he wants to tell. So here is the variant by Adrian Sorrentino. That's, I think, our main character, Will, right there. I think my favorite Lemire stuff is probably his sort of, it's what he does, but I also like how he deconstructs things, and by that I mean Black Hammer.
Black Hammer, just deconstructing superhero comics.
I think, he's really good.
Yeah, some of the most recommended books that we have around here is Black Hammer stuff. Can't overhype it enough. Okay, so my next one is this one's more informative, I would say, because a weird thing happened this week where we got Suicide Squad Annual and Suicide Squad issue 7.
That is not supposed to happen.
On the same week. And unlike some annuals that are not related at all, like Marvel will do that where they're doing Infinite Destinies is running through all the annuals, but it's not by the same creative team or anything as the main series. these are very much connected, and there's a reading order to them that it's not hinted at anywhere on here. So I will let you know that you need to read Suicide Squad Annual before you read number 7. And the reason for that is Annual is very much about Superboy. So that was a big kind of reveal early on in this run of Suicide Squad, is that why is Superboy on the team?
Right.
Why was he in prison? Why is he
they
kind
broke him out? That was like the first.
Yeah. Why is he? You know, I mean, one, like, why is he helping this team? Because clearly, I mean, he could take Amanda Waller out if he really wanted to. But this is doing the most explaining. We saw at the end of a previous issue where this Superboy, as you can see, there may be multiples, came face to face with the 90s Superboy with the leather jacket and the little sunglasses and everything. This explores that, and there is a definitive answer to this Superboy on this Suicide Squad team. And I read these in the wrong order, and I was very confused. So, Suicide Squad 7, very fun issue. If you don't know who that is on the cover, that is Ambush Bug, which is a fourth wall breaking character in the DC universe. Maybe even more wall breaking than Deadpool. I feel like Ambush Bug rarely lives in the universe that he's supposed to be currently inhabiting. He's always kind of over the top and out there. And in this one, all the Suicide Squad are at the beach. And Ambush Bug is playing with action figures version of his teammates. And it is very weird, very crazy, but really cool. In this one, they address some stuff with Superboy that I was like, when did that happen? Why does he look like that? Everything. It's because it happens in the annual, and it kind of spoiled some of the fun of reading it, because then when I went back to read the annual, I was like, I know where this is going. So if you get these, read Suicide Squad Annual before you read number 7. I think that's the way they were originally solicited. I think maybe the annual got pushed or something, and they ended up just colliding in the same week. Mm-hmm. So that is your little PSA for that. These do have really cool variant covers. So we have, as you can see here, the Suicide Squad Superboy up against the super cool 90s Superboy. This one is by Perel. And then Suicide Squad 7 has this great cover from Kevin Maguire, who did a lot with Ambush Bug back in the Justice League International days and everything. Also, this issue sends the Suicide Squad to hell, and some very interesting people are there to greet them.
Okay, so I read Ka-Zar, Lord of the Savage Land, number 1 today. So I can't say that I'm super duper familiar with Ka-Zar. I mean, I know who he is. He's popped up in comics forever. I mean, he's one of those characters who, you know, he's a pulp style character.
Yeah,
is what he is. You know, easily comparable to Tarzan.
Yeah, very Edgar Rice Burroughs, high adventure.
Yeah, and I like stuff like that. I like Edgar Rice Burroughs stuff in particular. So, but I've never been super familiar with Ka-Zar, so it was kind of neat to get to read a book that was his book, not just him in a book. Like, oh, he's teaming up with Spider-Man, or the way I've seen him before. So, the first thing to know if you pick this book up is that Ka-Zar died in the Empire plot line. So, during Empire Avengers, he died, but he was brought back. And now that he's brought back, he has new powers. Like, it has changed him. The new powers are not completely clarified in this. He seems super connected with the Savage Lands. He says he can hear every whisper, he can feel nature. So that's as much as I know, and that's as much as really is divulged in his first issue. His first issue is not about, you know, here's exactly what his powers are. It's more, he has new powers that even frighten him, and he's not exactly sure what they are. Also in this issue is his wife Shanna.
Mm-hmm.
Shanna the She-Devil. I'm sure you've heard of her.
Yeah.
If you don't know much about her. And they have a son named Matthew, who is trying to come to grips with the fact that his father is this great hero and ruler of the Savage Lands. He's trying to create an identity for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really an introduction to these characters. It's seeing how they're living. It's seeing how they're dealing with that Ka-Zar died and came back. And the first half you'll be understanding them, but it's like, okay, well, what's the plot though?
Mm-hmm.
Where is this going to go? The plot comes up in there's a weird word that keeps popping up, and I'll say it because it's not like I know any more by the end of the issue than you will. But the word is polyscion. Polyscion. I don't know how it's pronounced, but you'll see it. Look for it in the art. You might even see it because I've only read it once. You might see it in things like in the flowers in the background and whatever. Something's happening in the Savage Lands, and it does not seem like Ka-Zar, as much as he's connected with them, knows about it. But I will say there could be other characters that do know about it, and it seems very nefarious. So that's what I'll say about this issue. The only other thing that is noteworthy is some of the Marvel issues this week, and I think possibly next week, have a 9/11 tribute backstory.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of them.
Yeah, a few of mine had it too.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think Joe Quesada wrote it,
Yeah.
and John Romita Jr. did the art in it.
Yep. So it involves Spider-Man, Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like that they did it. It's a very nice tribute.
It's quite reverent.
Mm-hmm.
So look for that as well. And so we got several variants on this. The first, we have the trading card variant.
I love that one. There's something just really cool about that one.
Yep. Ka-Zar and Shanna. And then we've got the Peach Momoka variant. I like how a lot of her art, it kind of goes in circles if you look at it. But
I like how that would go right next to that Conan Momoko variant. It looks like they could just be hanging out.
Yeah. Here is the Tubanti variant. The Savage Lands, I think a lot of people know what they are, but they're also cool because they have creatures that are a lot more wild than our world. I mean, they have dinosaurs in the Savage Lands. And then here is the Cabal variant, which is pretty creepy. And lastly, we have the Torque variant, which is a 1 in 25 that we are selling to our customers for $25.
It's a really nice one. Yeah. Torque is another name that's popping up more and more. Another big artist.
Yep.
So my next one is a number 2. It's the Me You Love in the Dark number 2. We sold out of number 1 of this.
This new one by Scotty Young?
By Scotty Young and Corona doing the art. And it is... I don't want to say I'm surprised that we sold out of number 1, because I mean, one, the names attached to it are great, but this is not, I wouldn't say your traditional. Well, it's not a very traditional comic in the sense of this bombastic first issue with all these characters and this lore. This is a very low key comic, and it's really refreshing, I would say. It's more about atmosphere than bombarding you with lore and stuff about, who are all these characters and what's the big mystery. Because, so issue 1, about this girl named Ro, who is an artist. She goes, she's been having a hard time. She's not producing the level of art that kind of her art vendors want, and she thinks she just needs to get away from everything, so she's very drawn to this house. It's of course your classic haunted mansion looking house, and she's going to go spend some time there and work in private to maybe get some of that that good art juice that she had before, try to get that back. And so the issue 1 really didn't have, it had dialogue, but I feel like it was more about just taking in the mood and the environment of the house and all the nooks and crannies of it and everything. But in it, suddenly a voice starts talking to her. And in this one, there is more of a conversation between Ro and this spirit that's in the house. And it struck me odd that her interaction with it is not a traditional one if you start talking to a disembodied voice in a house. It's not. She's a little unnerved by it, but it almost seems like the voice is so personable and calm that she very quickly eases into conversations with it, um, almost like a almost like a phone call. Like at the end of the night, she's like, "I'm going to bed," and it's like, "Oh," and the voice is basically like, "Okay, well, let me know when you want to talk again," type thing. It's very weird, a little surreal, but also very calming. You can tell that like maybe this is just the thing she needs, and part of me is like, is this turning into like a person ghost love story? I can't quite tell at this point. Um, but even so much as uh, she's trying to figure out what does this person look like, and that inspires her to do some paintings. Now, I will say that the ending was very interesting because through this, I mean, no spoiler. If there's a voice talking to you, you're wondering, what's its motives and what is it? Why is it doing this? Why is it being so helpful? The end are some pretty surprising things are seen and heard that you'll have to read it to find out. But this is another one that I just really enjoyed. I really dug into, and I think it's just the way that the atmosphere really pulls you in, and you can tell all about this house and this voice and everything just so easily. So major props to Scotty Young for that, and I believe Jorge Corona, the artist, just knocks it out of the park. I really enjoyed issue number 2, and I like more books like this. It's a nice, different change of pace from your traditional superheroes, like some more I will be talking about soon, but definitely recommended this. Also want to point out, good for our store, there is a second printing of number 1 out. So if you missed out on it, if your store sold out of it, you can pick up the second printing of number 1. And we also have the 1 in 20 sketch variant of the second printing. And this we are selling to our customers for $40. It's a little hard to see there, because you could, a lot of this is going to end up being black on the regular cover, but really nice.
Okay, so I read Green Lantern Annual 2021. So, what causes Jessica Cruz to become a Yellow Lantern? It's complicated. So, they took an entire annual to sort of go through it. So, this cover right here, I have to say, this is a oversimplification. In fact, not even everything on this cover happens. I guess maybe in spirit, some of it does. I like to look at covers and go, does this happen? Didn't
Yeah.
it? Does this represent it well? And so, spirit, perhaps. Um, so, this issue, she shows up at Sinestro's place with 3 prisoners and the yellow rings that she took off of them, that she wants to return to Sinestro. That's all she wants to do. But of course, Sinestro goes, you're really effective. Are you sure you're working for the right team? Because I'm not so bad like people tell you. I'm a good guy. A lot of it is their conversation. I would be depriving you of reading it to tell you more than that. But let's just say Jessica Cruz just wants to go home.
Mm-hmm.
And Sinestro pretty much tells her, okay, well, the only way I have to get you home is the yellow ring. We'll come back and get it, but you've got to wear it to get home. So she reluctantly agrees. It's what happens on the way home, though, and with the ring and the people she meets that really turns the tide of thought, of what she thinks of the Green Lanterns, the Yellow Lanterns, everything. A lot happens in this issue. but I think I've said enough
Mm-hmm.
as far as that's the setup. You'll have to see, what dilemmas happen and who does she meet and what are the disagreements and how I always like to see things where characters have to shift their mind a little.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I think that's it takes some good writing to do that. So I thought it was a very good issue. It's also got a really awesome variant by David Nakayama. Look at that. That is a great cover for the Jessica Cruz collectors out there.
Okay, my next one is a one that I hope someone's watching, because this is Avengers Tech-on #2. I say that because when I did the review of #1, the awesome writer Jim Zub actually commented and used one of the quotes from our show on, I think, his website.
Yeah, on his website.
Of me praising his book. I didn't know he was going to do that. That was my honest opinion on it, because I really liked issue #1. Even though this is a kind of a joint thing with Marvel and Bandai, I really liked just the tone of it. So often comics, Marvel comics, DC, doesn't matter. They're so heavy into the continuity and so heavy into the what's been going on before, what's coming next, that it's nice to take a step outside of that and read a fun story that you don't have to worry about a lot of that stuff. And this is a fun tale of the Avengers. In the first issue, Red Skull got pieces of the Infinity Stones, like the Infinity Dust, I believe, and used it to wipe out all superpowers. So, of course, Iron Man builds them suits to go up against Red Skull, try to reverse this and everything. And in doing so, the Avengers get really awesome looking, like, robot mech suits. They're not giant, they're just like
more form-fitting.
More form-fitting,
Yeah.
more like Iron Man suit, but of course each tailor-made to them. You've got Wolverine in there, you've got Black Panther, Iron Man, Captain America, and in this issue you see them go up against Red Skull. And but that's just the beginning of it, because there's a call because something is rampaging through the city, and it's Venom, but not your normal Venom. This is the Tech-on version of Venom, which is really awesome. This whole thing has a very anime style,
Right.
but in the best way. Like, their armor is so detailed in every scene. It's really, really cool. I love seeing them go up against this crazy version of Venom that is just very kaiju-esque Venom. You see them all kind of test out their unique versions of their powers. I mean, Wolverine's claws. We see like how powerful Captain America's shield is. Really, really cool. And then finally, there is a tease, which I love this when series have kind of this look to them. Like with this one, they all have their armor. You kind of want to be like, oh, what does this person look like? What is this person? What's their armor going to look like? And it looks like we're going to get a lot more of that, because at the end, it looks like someone else is coming into it, and a new villain. They've got their armor. Looks really cool. So they kind of teased that in the last issue with like, oh, Venom might be in this next one. This one teasing another character that's going to be coming up. And I want them to keep going. I just want to see, what does the whole Marvel universe look like in their own suits of armor, doing awesome stuff, shooting lasers. I mean, Wolverine's claws are like 4 feet long and sparking and everything. So just such a fun series, especially if you want to take a little detour from the ongoing drama soap opera of the main continuity, and take a little step to the side, have fun with just a crazy, almost anime style series. And continuing, just like we had issue 1 had a Peach Momoko variant, we have the Peach Momoko variant for #2, this time with Iron Man. And even Iron Man gets a new suit upgrade. He wouldn't just keep his old one. He's
No.
like, no, I got to spice up
Yep.
my own a little bit too. So
And you know, Jim Zub confirmed that Bandai is making action figures from this.
yes,
He posted a link on the video you were talking about, the first issue, and it took to some Bandai site
yeah,
where it showed the Iron Man action figure.
yeah, it's
So-
awesome. I really want them now. There's a few of them that are just so cool, such great designs.
Yep. So
and,
for anyone who didn't know, Bandai's making action figures from them. You know
Yeah.
it now.
and Jim Zub, if you're watching, call me. I could do some covers.
Indeed. So the next one I am going over is Search for Who. It is the latest from Aftershock. So this is a crime story that centers around family. And I mean that in both a crime family and a biological family sense. They talk a lot about family in this issue. So Aaron, our main character, he is a war veteran who's just returned home. He's been home for an indeterminate amount of time, but not, forever. You can tell war is still in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
He still has a war buddy he calls up from time to time. And out of nowhere, some people shoot up his parents' bar. His parents own this bar, and they're inside. It is like a hit on his parents. Mm-hmm. And he discovers that his mother has a dark family secret she's been keeping from all of them, and that she is linked in with this blood feud going on in China that she ran from between a Jewish mob and a Chinese mob. So our main character Aaron, he can tell that they're not going to let it at just they shot at his parents and they didn't die. They're going to keep coming after them. So once he learns this, Aaron travels over to China to try to meet the different gangs that are doing this. Mm-hmm. And of course, more violence erupts. And Aaron, being a war veteran, he's tough. He can hold his own. But I mean, he might have bit off more than he can chew, considering this is whole gangs of people with guns. However, going over there, meeting some of them that don't like him, he also might find some allies. That's what I kind of got out of the first mm-hmm. issue. So that's the premise right there. It's sort of an international crime family sort of plot line. And we have this 1 in 15 variant by Johnson. We are selling it for $20 to our customers.
You've got a lot of crime family issues this week.
Yeah.
It's a popular one. Okay, I believe my final one this week is one that I wish I got to read more in depth. When issue 1 of Joker, a Puzzlebox, or Joker Presents a Puzzlebox came out, I read through it twice. Was still so not confused, but when Joker's telling a story, how much of it do you believe? How much of it is his embellishment just for the sake of wanting to be kind of a showman? What is him circumventing the truth? And this is similar. I wouldn't say it's as kooky as number 1, especially the Batman scene in number 1. He really he gave Batman a very weird voice and a very the way Joker would talk about Batman. But in this one, the mystery continues. Who killed the Riddler? So the Riddler has been murdered. Gotham Central, the prison, is full of all of the suspects, and Joker's being interrogated with a blood-stained suit about who killed the Riddler. And he's, of course, taking his sweet time going through the entire story, kind of spotlighting each of the people there to Gordon, who just wants to get on with it. I love the stories where Gordon's just tired. He's just run his hand through his hair, and he's just leaned up like, what are you doing? But, of course, Joker loves this. He loves just dragging this out. And in this one, the spotlight turns towards Black Mask, which is a character we don't get a whole lot of stories with. But is it, each of these I feel like are going to spotlight different people with clues and everything. This one we have Black Mask and Harley Quinn, and how if they are involved in the murder. We don't know because it seems like Joker may be the only one who has an answer for it, but I'm going to have to read this one again because I feel like there's clues dropped all throughout it about um, Joker likes to kind of give his answer in the telling, and I feel like we're going to get to the end of this and be like, oh, we should have seen it all along. So, is it Joker presents a puzzle box? I always forget the presents. Joker presents a puzzle box number 2. And we also have the variant by Sean Crystal. And on it we see Black Mask and Harley standing on top of a question mark.
All right, so I must have grabbed more comics than you by accident because I've got my last 3, but here we go. So I read Defenders number 2. Number 1 was cool. The team had to get put together. There's a guy going back in time, and he's messing up different universes. I think this is supposed to be like the main Marvel universe is like the 6th or 7th one. And he's going back, messing up the other ones, and it's eventually going to mess ours up. So Doctor Strange pulls together sort of like the greatest defenders who could possibly stop this guy, and it includes some new members. Mainly, you'll see her right there, sort of top center. That is Taya, Galactus's mother.
Is it confirmed?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, this issue certainly confirms it. I'll tell you why. So Taya, the first thing I'll say about it is, and you'll appreciate this more if you read it, she likes to say things that are in quotes. It has me really wondering how she speaks. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Almost every sentence she has something in quotes, but it's not like she's quoting someone. It's more like she's adding emphasis.
Mm.
So
she's not doing this the whole time.
I don't think so. I think she talks sort of like a pulp character, sort of like time to go to my spiral jet.
Okay, yeah.
like that. But it's really weird. I'm very fascinated with how she talks. I have an idea in my mind, but when you read it, dear readers out there, you'll see what I mean. Very interesting character. Not at all how I'd expect Galactus's mother. She seems sort of like a superhero scientist. She doesn't seem evil one little bit, I'll tell you that. But in this, you will see baby Galactus, because they are not just in normal time. They are also through time. So how will Silver Surfer, for instance, who's on the team, react to being around baby Galactus? That's a big question that this one...
You walk up and your boss is a baby. What do you do?
Gets answered. Not just your boss, somebody who's devoured so many planets and has affected your life in such a huge way. So as this is happening, they're having to go up against Omnimax, who is basically Galactus if he didn't have a conscience. Galactus who enjoys destroying planets. So you'll get to meet sort of the main villain as well in this one, who is the catalyst that made the Defenders have to come together. A lot of things go down, but those are the main things. This is that cosmic storytelling that you either know you like or you don't. Like if you want your stories cosmic, where the things happening are so big, it's incredible. Al Ewing really delivers.
He's the man for that.
Correct. So that is sort of my quick review of Defenders number 2. We also have this Rodriguez variant. And we have the Quinones variant. And lastly, we have this Perez 1 in 25 variant that we're selling to our customers for $20. So next up, I want to talk about Extreme Carnage Toxin. This is part 6 of the 8-part Extreme Carnage series. Toxin is, of course, one of the other symbiotes that came from Carnage, the other ones being the Life Foundation ones that we've been seeing. They've had all their one-shots. So something I didn't know I learned from this. So Toxin is supposed to be the 1,000th, wow, it's hard to say, the 1,000th symbiote created, and because of this he's supposed to be more powerful than most of the others. He was supposed to be like super tough, but how much have you heard of him?
Yeah.
How much have you seen him? He's
Yeah.
gotten beat down. He is currently, his host is a teenager named Bren. Now, unlike the other ones, like this one shot's different than the others. It really sticks a lot with them. Like a lot of the other one shots, you kind of get the introduction of the person. But in this one, Carnage comes to Toxin to be like what he's been doing, which is, hey, you're going to do what I say. We get to see how that works. Before, we were just seeing it from the host side, that the symbiote was just taken over. Now, in this, we get to see on the other side of things, in the void, where Carnage comes to Toxin and says, hey, you're going to do what I say, and they have a big battle, and you'll get to see how strong Toxin is or isn't, and Carnage really talks to him about this. But I have to say, I don't know much about Toxin. He is not much of a villain. He has really changed. He is very close to this boy Bren, and some surprising things happen, and by the end, Flash Thompson and Silence may possibly have another helper, another major helper. So a good bit goes on in this one, but I like how it just kind of sticks close. You get to see a lot of Carnage in this and a lot of what he's doing. Still full plan, not revealed, but obviously we see the trajectory of the plan for sure.
Yeah, and we're getting very close. This maybe what, 2 parts left?
2 parts left.
Okay.
Yep. After this is Agony, and then the Omega issue. All right, so we have some variants. This is the trading card variant with Toxin on it. And then, of course, we got to have, I'm glad they got him to do all these, the Scotty Young variant. When he's not writing the Me We Do in the Dark, he's drawing these goofy,
he's drawing cute
awesome
things.
covers. Oh, and there's the 1 in 10 Philip Tan variant we are selling for, what is it, for $15. And the last one I want to talk about is Deadpool Black, White, and Blood #2. So, like the Conan book before, this is an anthology, and I've really enjoyed these. All the Black, White, and Blood ones they did for Wolverine. It really lets writers just do whatever they want. This has 3 stories I'll just tell you about really quickly. The first one is by David and Maria Lapham. And in it, Deadpool's under the control of the Purple Man. The Purple Man basically could tell him anything and he has to do it. The Purple Man is also avoiding and trying to kill Daredevil. Well, how well do you think it is when you can tell Deadpool to do things and he can do whatever his interpretation of what you say is?
Yeah.
It is terrible. I feel so bad for the Purple Man in this. Great short story on that. The second one is by Carla Pacheco, and in it, Deadpool sort of teams up with Gambit. You know how Deadpool teams up with people. They don't want him on the team.
He invites himself to the party.
Yeah, and they go up against a cult of vampires who eat mutant babies to get their power. He also makes fun of the way Gambit speaks. That made me laugh out loud at one point. And the last story, and this is my favorite story, it was by Daniel Warren Johnson. And in this story, you could tell Warren Johnson, he really has a connection with Deadpool, as in when he was a kid, he like read the comics. So this comic, because Deadpool can break the 4th wall, it is Deadpool trying to help Daniel Warren Johnson figure out the best comic he can write about him, because he really wants to pay tribute to him. And it's probably my favorite one. It's really good. So he starts several stories. He's like, what if you're doing this? And Deadpool will do it for a while. But it's just so cool for him to not just break the 4th wall, but like interact with the creator. I'm really impressed with that story. It's just, I haven't read one like that in a while. So if you pick it up, I think you'll see why I really enjoyed that. And the variant is done by Daniel Warren Johnson. Great artist, but also, I mean, that story, it really blew me away. And it gets actually like a little personal at the end too. Which, how do you get personal about Deadpool? But, so we were all kids grabbing comics, and who knows what characters affect us the best. So, all right, well, that is it. That is our day early comic review video for the week. We hope we have done our job and we have described these comics to you in a way that you know which ones sound like they're going to connect with you. you're armed for tomorrow when you storm into your shop.
Don't storm in too hard. The workers at your store are probably pretty tired.
To get these comics before they dry up off the wall, before somebody else grabs the last copy. That is what we're here to do.
Or as people grab them, you can say, "I know about that one."
That's right. Yeah, you can show like you're the know-it-all. And hopefully we didn't tell you too many things.
Mm-hmm.
We try. We dance around it.
Yep.
It's a difficult dance, but we attempt to do it every single week. So thank you very much. We'll be back on Friday with Comics from the Future, where we will talk about all the open order comics, like we did with these several weeks back, where you can order them and be guaranteed to get them.
Mm-hmm.
So please join us for that show. In the meantime, we'll leave some order details up in case you don't have a shop that you order from. We would like to be that shop for you. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube and we've been helpful at all, please hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. It'll pop up and tell you when we've done another one. So until then, have a great week.